In this video, I'm going to be running through a demo of the interface of Colony's forthcoming DApp, but before diving into that, I'll give a very brief introduction to Colony. Colony is the most powerful, practical, flexible and easy-to-use platform for decentralized autonomous organizations. Our goal is to make it easy for people all over the world to build organizations together online. Concretely, what we're trying to do is to allow online communities to form, raise money, collectively manage those funds, and coordinate activity towards a common goal without needing to know or trust one another. Colony is being deployed to Ethereum mainnet and the XDAO blockchain, and a very high-level overview of the kind of capabilities enabled by Colony includes the ability to structure an organization into departments or teams, each with their own memberships, to manage a token treasury and apply budgets to different teams and initiatives, a variety of different kinds of payments based on a flexible underlying expenditure primitive, to assign authority to members according to a variety of conditions subject to the individual circumstances of the organization, including using reputation earned through consistently valuable contribution to the organization. It will allow organizations to raise funds via token sales, donations, or receiving revenue. It will provide a number of different decision-making mechanisms suitable for different use cases and to arbitrate disputes in the case of disagreement. And finally, it will enable a DAO to make arbitrary transactions with any other contracts on the same chain. So if your DAO needs to govern another protocol or interact with DeFi, it will be able to do so. One of the key ideas behind Colony's decentralized governance mechanisms is that we think voting is generally not desirable and therefore seek to avoid voting where possible. I'll get into this in a lot more detail in the demo which will follow shortly. And if there's one thing that we've learned about organizations over the years we've been working on Colony, it's that no two are alike. Every organization is different. And Colony's modular design means that organizations will be able to plug in extensions to provide their organization with the tools they need to operate as they wish. As we've nearly finished the Colony network smart contracts as defined in the white paper, building out these extensions in response to community needs will be a key focus of our work going forwards. And as you'll see from the UI demo I'm about to give, Colony provides a simple, intuitive user experience that requires no special technical understanding and seeks to communicate even potentially complicated governance processes simply and step by step. So, with all that said, let's take a look at the demo. Alright then. So before we get started, it's worth noting that this is a clickable prototype, not the working product. With that said, the Colony Network smart contracts are right now about 90 to 95% complete. So the bulk of our work really at the moment and going forwards is in building out great user experiences that really unlock the power of the Colony network. That's a comparatively agile process relative to designing and building out smart contracts. So we expect to be launching the first version of the DApp around mid-February this year. It won't include everything that I'm going to show you in this demonstration, but we do expect to ship everything that you'll find here, and hopefully more, by the end of Q2 this year. Alright, with that said, let's move through and show you all the features. So starting from the top right hand corner, we've got our user's avatar. This is a user called Harley that I'm going to be embodying for this demo. To the left of that, we've got the notification center where you get notified, obviously, about the things that are relevant to you, the address with which we're connected, the number of tokens that I have in this particular colony, and if I click on that, I'll see my token activation modal. Now, token activation is something that you need to do if you want to participate in things like staking or a token-weighted vote or in a revenue share. It's basically depositing your tokens to a locking contract so they can be locked in place and counted accurately. To the left of that, we've got the total amount of reputation that I have in this colony. And to the left of that, the network to which we're connected. We're initially deploying to Ethereum mainnet and XDAO. Over here to the left, we've got the name of the colony and its address that funds can be sent to. Down the left-hand side, all the colonies that this user is a member of and the ability to create a new colony. And then these tabs down the left-hand side give us our different sections of the app. And we'll get into all of those in a second. In fact, we're going to dive into those now. So we're on the Actions tab right now, which is where most of the magic happens. This is the stuff really that you would most associate with a DAO. So we'll come back to that afterwards, and first we'll dive through some of these. So first on to events. Events is a log of everything that's going on in the smart contracts, whether transactions are happening via the app or people are interacting directly with the smart contracts. Those are going to be showing up here, and we try to include some copy with each of those to make it understandable to the lay user as well as the advanced user. You can filter this by team as well. Then to extensions. So the extension manager is Colony's app store for smart contracts that expand and build upon the functionality in the Colony network. So this is what we use to deploy really all new functionality going forwards. So if we want to create new governance mechanisms, like a hybrid voting module that requires both token and reputation weighted voting at the same time, or if somebody wanted to develop a futarchy or liquid democracy module, it'd be possible to find it in here and add it to your colony. And it's a very simple process. You just click on one that you like the look of and add it. And it's really as simple as that. As I mentioned in the presentation before the demo, one thing that we'd really learned throughout the process of designing Colony is that no two organizations are alike. So we expect there to be a really broad variety of different configurations of extensions that people end up putting together in order to run their Colony the way it works for them. Moving on to the finances page. This you can think of as a transparency portal for every organization. In this main area, we've got the Colony's balances over time. So if we dive into that, you can see the total treasury value, all of the different tokens and amounts that the Colony has got, and how those break down by teams. Back to the main page, we've got transactions. So you can see all the transactions coming in and out of the organization. Again, you can filter that by team. You can filter it by token type, whether these tokens are coming in or out, and by date ranges too. Over here, we've got the token supplier. If you have deployed a new token when setting up your colony can be controlling the token contract, and you can set up inflation funding for your colony so that it's constantly issuing tokens at a rate you define. So it can define a number of tokens per day that get issued and a maximum supply. And you can also burn and mint your tokens on an ad hoc basis. And then we also have rewards. Now, rewards are an incentive mechanism contained within Colony, a revenue distribution. So what you can do, you can fund this two ways. You can either, if your colony is one that generates revenue, set aside a percentage of the incoming revenue to go to the rewards pot and distribute it periodically to your colony's members proportional to their tokens and reputation that they hold in the colony. Alternatively, if you don't want that to be percentage of incoming revenue, you can just move funds to the rewards pot when it seems appropriate. And then we go to Coin Machine. Coin Machine is Colony's token sale mechanism. This token sale mechanism seeks to find the right market price for the token by doing a series of sales. You can construct this sale either as a discrete sale, i.e. with a hard cap, or a continuous sale. And in either eventuality, it will be a series of sales. You set a target number of tokens that you wish to sell in a particular sale. If you exceed the target, then the price in the next sale is going to go up. If you don't hit the target, then the price in the next sale is going to go down. All right, so going back to the Actions tab, that's where the magic happens. So I'll guide you through everything you can see here. So at the top, you can see the colony's total balance. If you click on this, you'll be able to see the different tokens that it has, and its total balance is there. Here we've got the teams in the colony. Teams exist within a hierarchical structure. So the root is the top level team of the colony, as it states over here, and handles things concerning the organization as a whole. And beneath that, you can create other teams. So in this case, this is presumably a software development colony. To begin with, we've just got a single layer of teams that are possible under root, but in the future, it'll be possible to nest these. So you might have product, and then under that, you might have UI and UX teams. All right, so over on the right-hand side, we can also see that this team has a number of funds available to it. Every team can have its own budgets and its own memberships. And a member is defined as somebody who has reputation in a team. So if I click on this, we can see more about that. You earn reputation in a team by receiving payment from that team in that colony's native token. And as you'll recall, I mentioned that the team structure is hierarchical. And what that means is that if you earn reputation in product, that reputation is going to earn you influence over decisions in product. And it's also going to earn you reputation in root. So you'll get a say in both product and root. But because you haven't demonstrated competence in any of the sibling domains of product, you won't have a say in dev or marketing. You would need to do something of value in there to earn a say in either of those domains. And then also we saw that there's some permissions in here. And permissions is another way that you can assign authority to act in a colony. We've found that most organizations are not keen to decentralize control whole cloth right away. There's usually a desire for decentralization to be a progressive process, where some people are able to retain some discretionary authority to act, which is gradually ceded to reputation or token-weighted governance. This is where we get to all of the actions that a colony can take. So I'll guide you through all of these things. You can create expenditures, and we start off with just a simple payment, which is a single type of token to a single account. But this is built upon a really flexible and powerful payments primitive called expenditures, which allows you to do all sorts of different payment modalities. So you can do batch payments, you could do milestone-based payments, you could do payments to many people at the same time, and you can even construct, using extensions, more sophisticated types of payment arrangements, things like tasks, in which you have got a manager of the task, a worker, and an evaluator, each of whom have got a remit for their work and compensation for their work and ratings. And you'll also be able to create recurring payments for things like salaries or subscriptions. You can manage the colony's funds, so you can transfer funds between teams. You can manage the tokens that the colony can recognize. You can manage the rewards, that is the profit sharing. So you can set the percentage of the colony's incoming revenue that should go to the rewards pot. You can send some funds to the rewards pot or start a rewards payout. And you can control the token supplier, so setting the issuance rate, limit, and burning and minting tokens. You'll have noticed around the place shortcuts to doing these things, but everything that you can do within the colony is available via this universal action creator. So there's a dual navigation approach there. We make some things available contextually via shortcuts and everything via this universal action creator. You can smite somebody, so you can punish their reputation. Earned reputation is how you gain authority to be able to act in a colony. So if somebody's earned some reputation and then perhaps starts misbehaving, their ability to act can be removed from them using smite. And then going to advanced, you can manage permissions. So as I mentioned before, these are rather powerful functionalities that we'd typically imagine would be assigned to smart contracts, but can also be assigned to people, because many organizations want to retain some centralized control initially as they set the values and culture of their organization and decentralize it in a progressive and safe way. So this allows you to do that, and we try and bundle different semantically related pieces of functionality together and create a sort of separation of concerns between the different roles. So you can, for example, give some people the administration permission, allowing them to create expenditures, but perhaps give a separate set of people the funding permission, allowing those expenditures to be funded. And then there's also the recovery permission, which is a really important one I'm about to get onto right now. So recovery is the panic button for your colony. If perhaps your colony is under attack or something untoward is going on, then you can enter recovery mode, everything will stop, and the only thing that can happen is people with the recovery permission can update the storage slots of the colony and sign a multi-sig transaction to set it back in motion. And then when upgrades are available to the colony network, you can make those motions here, or changing the details. And again, coming a little bit later on this year, you'll also be able to make arbitrary transactions. So if you need to govern a separate smart contract or interact with really any other smart contract, you'll be able to construct the transaction here. All right, with that interface run through, I'd like to just demo a couple of governance scenarios in Colony. One of the key things that we often talk about is how voting sucks and how we try and avoid voting wherever possible in Colony. Now, the reason for that is that we think in most well-functioning organizations, voting is really quite rarely necessary. Consensus formation usually happens off-chain, and the process of voting on-chain in other DAO frameworks is really just a process of ratifying a decision that's already been made off-chain. So in Colony, the default position is that things are okay, and it requires somebody to object for a vote to take place. So what that means in practice is that in a well-functioning organization where people are communicating effectively, it doesn't require everybody to be signing loads of transactions all the time and coordinating around getting a vote done. It just requires people to note that a motion has been made and to, do nothing actually if they want it to pass, and only if they really disagree with it should they object. But in this first example I'm going to show, it's the happy path in which an agreement has already been reached and we get to a decentralized decision without voting. So in this case, you can see we're going to move funds from product to dev. We're going to send 25,000 XDAI and providing the justification for it. So in case this is hard to read, I'll just read it out. We need to accelerate development. We discussed on the call yesterday that product has more funds than it needs right now, and it would be better to put that money to work in dev. So hit confirm, sign the transaction, and we get to the action page. So we have a title which is procedurally generated from the inputs of the motion. We see the justification for the motion and an event in the event feed explaining what's happened, with a link to the Block Explorer to inspect that. Now, as we go through this, a whole history of events is going to be constructed here, so anybody coming along can see exactly what's happened step by step along this governance journey. Now, every motion needs to be staked in order to be eligible. If it's not staked, then it will just fail. So in this case, we've set it up to be a staking period of 72 hours. That's a configurable parameter when you deploy the motions extension. So I am going to provide some stake here. I'm just going to provide 25% of the stake, 20% of the stake, because I'm not totally confident and I want somebody else to come along and back me up. So I just need to wait now for that to happen. So Chris has come along and said, yep, I can confirm that this is the decision we came to. and I'm happy to provide the rest of the stake. And with that happened, we get a system message to say motion is fully staked, the staking period has reset, so as long as there's no objection, the motion will pass. And now, as I mentioned, this is the happy path. This is a well-functioning organisation in which people have discussed what needs to happen, and there is going to be no objection. So when I click and fast forward through time now, the motion will pass. So there we go. Time has run out. A motion has passed and may be finalised. This governance process has provided a pre-authorization for a transaction that can transfer funds from product to dev. And it allows this transaction to be a public function. So anybody in the colony who has got an interest in funds being moved from product to dev can come along and sign this transaction and the funds will be moved. It doesn't need to be one of the people who have already staked it or have some kind of permission. So I'm just going to finalize that. And we get an event here to say that Harley has finalized the motion. 25,000 DAI were moved from product to dev, and stakes may be claimed. So if you recall at the beginning, I put down a stake, and I can now claim that back. And there we are. Complete decentralized governance without voting. Now, if we head back to our actions pane, whereas this before was empty, we've now got it populated with a couple of motions. This is the one that we were just on. But we can also see that there's this new one that we haven't seen before, as represented by this blue flash. Now, this is a payment, and looks like it's going to pass in 52 hours. So let's have a look at that. Now, Luke has decided to make a payment to himself. He's fully staked it, and he's hoping that nobody's going to object within the next 52 hours so that he's able to claim these funds for himself. However, I'm highly suspicious of Luke, and I think that this is likely to be a spurious motion. So I'm going to object to it. Now, it says here, and excuse me for reading all of these out in case you're on a small screen, you're about to make an objection to the motion. If fully staked, it will immediately start a voting process to determine whether the motion should pass. So I provide my justification and sign the transaction. And now I have an objection which needs to be staked. So I shall stake that. I'm going to provide the whole stake. So I'm very confident that Luke is up to no good. And there we go. We've got a voting process started. So we get a new system message to say voting has started. Voting is secret and weighted by reputation. So Colony's voting approach is what we call a commit reveal. So you're initially signing a secret message, which is only subsequently revealed. And we think that this is really important in collecting collective intelligence effectively, because one mistake that we see people making over and over again is revealing the outcome of the vote as it's going along. And so people coming along, they can see which way the wind is blowing, and that cannot help but bias the outcomes of the vote. And this is very easy to find in all of the research on collective intelligence, and it's why votes are usually secret. So you'll see at the top that there's a dual condition for the vote ending. It ends either on timeout or when a threshold of the reputation in this domain has voted. And the reason for that is that if you have got a relatively small number of people who are voting, perhaps it's on a call and a dispute emerges, and it would be possible to create a motion to cause that to go to vote, to reveal the vote and get to an outcome, all within just a few minutes, rather than requiring it to wait days as you would in any of the current DAO frameworks. We think that these kind of basic principles of agility within an organization are just absolutely critical to an organization that can really get something done. What else can we see? So we have got the motion, should paying Luke 5,000 DAI be approved. There's a reward for voting. Now, the reward is 20% of the stake put by the losing side. So in this case, I've got 7.5% of the reputation, so I'm going to get 1.5 CLNY for having voted. You get this reward whichever way you vote, so it's not a reward for being on the winning side. Again, that's important. It avoids people trying to predict which side they think is going to win rather than voting for what they really think. So I'm going to click no, because obviously I disagree with this, and voting on it. Sign the transaction, and that has pushed us through to the reveal phase. So it's time to reveal my vote, and it's a reminder that your vote must be revealed to be counted and claim the voter reward. So I sign the transaction to reveal the vote, and again it has this dual condition of either time or all of the votes being revealed. And so now we're just waiting for one of those conditions to be met. By revealing my vote, I have been rewarded for voting. So there we go, somebody else has come along and revealed their vote, and it's got us to revealing the outcome. So it was a landslide victory for the no side. Luke has been roundly thrashed. However, he has the ability to escalate. Now, if Luke thinks that this was grossly unfair, and perhaps there was a cabal of reputation holders against him that have never liked him and have always had it in for him, but if he were to escalate it to the root domain where there's much more reasonable people involved, he would be more likely to get paid out. He can do so. He can escalate that. So that just requires him to increase his stake, and this process can happen again. However, in this case, he's not going to do that because he was up to shenanigans and he has been found out. So the motion will fail in 1 day, 23 hours. So we move forward through time again. That timeout has occurred and may be finalized. Again, you get the notification in the event feed to note that has happened. So we can finalize this motion. So that's now complete. And all that remains to do is to reclaim stakes. So if you recall at the beginning of this governance process, I had put down a stake of 100 CLNY when I made my motion, as had Luke put down a stake of 100 CLNY when he made his motion. Sorry, when I made my objection. When he made his motion, he put down 100. The voters shared 20 of those CLNY between them, and the remaining 80 are shared between Luke and I, proportional to the amount of votes that we received. So it was a landslide for me, so I got 76, that is 95% of 80, and Luke just gets 4, so 5% of the remaining 80 CLNY. So I'm going to claim those back, and my balance in my wallet up there has increased. And so there we go. That is an adversarial or voting-based governance process completed in Colony, and is the conclusion of my demo. So thanks very much for watching. If you've got any questions that have come up from this, or perhaps you'd like to create a colony or build on Colony, I'd love to invite you to get in touch or join our communities. You can join us on Telegram, on Discord, you can follow us on Twitter, or if you're particularly old school, you can always drop me an email. So once again, thanks very much for your attention, and see you in one of these channels, I hope.